Hey everyone, it's Deborah with Diva Lady Designs, and I'm so happy you're joining me today. Again, I need to apologize for my voice. It's taking quite a while to get it back, but I'm just happy to be able to make these videos again. Today, I want to take you on a magical masking journey. The idea of masking has been around as long as stamping, and today I want to explore 3 different ways of using masks to create backgrounds and designs. Now this video is a little longer than my other ones, and that's because it's chock full of tips for masking combined with ink blending, heat embossing, and foiling, all techniques you can use on your own cards with your own supplies. Let's start with this card, which is the most involved of the 3 cards. It uses masking along with heat embossing and stamping to create the gorgeous background. So grab a cup of coffee or tea or a glass of something stronger and let's get started. For all of my cards today, I'll be using the Altenew Poinsettia and Berries stamp and die set. This set has been around for a while and I love it. I love the layering poinsettia stamps included, but for my cards, I'll be using the leaves and berries. Using the 2-leaf dies included in the set, I cut a lot of leaves out of the Altenew masking paper and applied them to a dark green panel cut 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Now I'll turn my panel over and trim off the excess. If you're making several cards, save these pieces so you can use them. Now I'll cover the entire panel with Hero Art's Unicorn White Pigment ink. I'm using a Tim Holtz Brayer. I wanted to create a muted white background for the leaves while allowing some of the green to show through. The pigment ink alone didn't quite do it for me, so after covering the panel, I used Hero Art's White Satin Pearl Embossing Powder. I tried this first with the Versamark on the embossing powder in an earlier version of the card, and it just didn't work right. It didn't give me that white pearl color I wanted. I found this combination to be just perfect. After the surface is totally embossed, you can begin to lift up the masking paper. You'll see that it leaves a fabulous green impression. It's okay if the masking paper tears. It's been through inking, embossing, and heating, so it deserves to tear a little bit. Now I could leave this background as is, but I'm going to step it up a bit with some stamping. I'm going to stamp the leaf images inside the areas that were masked using the stamps from the Poinsettia and Berries stamp set. I'll use Altenew Mountain Pine Crisp Dye ink, and it will give me a lovely, nice, dark, crisp image. I could have used my stamping tool for this, but it doesn't need to be perfect, so an acrylic block works well, and it goes faster. Since this is a solid stamp, you'll want to be sure to ink up your stamp well to get a good image, but remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. This is not the focal point of the card, so imperfect stamping is fine. I'll continue to stamp my images with the first stamp, then go back again with the other leaf stamp. Now I'm going to stamp the berries using Ruby Red Crisp Dye ink. While I have my stamps and ink out, I also stamped each leaf image onto a piece of white cardstock and cut them out with the coordinating dies. I'll put those aside for later. For the sentiments on all my cards today, I'm using the new Altenew Holiday Greeting hot foil plates and die sets. I invested in this because I love the size and font of these greetings. You can foil the greeting, then use the coordinating die set to cut it out. For my foiling, I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil Machine. If you already know how to foil, you can skip ahead in the video. If not, let's take a walk through the process. The machine comes with a removable hot plate that heats up when you turn it on. You'll see a red light at the left. When the plate has heated up, the light under it will turn green. The machine also comes with 2 plastic plates, one clear and one light green. You'll also need some hot foil, not deco foil, which is used with a special paste, but rather a heat-activated foil, such as Spellbinders, which is what I'm using today. You can foil on almost any cardstock. I'll be using Neenah 80-pound cardstock as well as a matte silver cardstock. Cut a piece of your desired foil a little bigger than the foil plate. I'm using Spellbinder's Cobalt Blue hot foil here. Place the foil pretty side up onto the cardstock and then place your hot foil plate face down onto the foil. Your foil plate should kiss the foil, otherwise you'll end up foiling the plate, not the cardstock, which I've done many times. I usually tape down the foil plate so that it doesn't move during the foiling process. Then trim your piece of cardstock for ease of handling. Let's do that again with the other greeting. This time I'll cut my cardstock to size first and then cut a piece of foil. I'm using this pretty rose foil from Spellbinders on this one. Again, I'll place it shiny side up onto the cardstock, lay down my foil plate, and then tape it down. Now let's foil. You'll see that the green light of the machine is on, which means that the hot plate is heated up and it's ready. I'll place my foil sandwiches hot foil plate side down onto the platform, then place both of the included plates on top of them. Notice the third button on the left. That's the timer. Press it once and it will start blinking. When the blinking has stopped, the plate has finished heating. Remove the platform and run the whole thing through your die cut machine. I've used both the Big Shot, as you'll see here, and my Spellbinders Platinum 6. By heating the foil and foil plate, then applying pressure with the die cut machine, the foiled image is pressed onto the cardstock for a beautiful shine. Gently pick up your pieces and carefully remove the tape. Be careful, the metal can be hot. Then remove the foil. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the look of foil on glossy cardstock, as well as white. Off screen, I foiled another greeting using green foil and then die cut all of the greetings with the coordinating die. I also cut 2 additional greetings for each one out of white cardstock. I'll use those to stack and give my sentiments dimension. To assemble my card, I cut a circle out of Gina K Designs Red Hot cardstock with a large circle die. I want to create a frame in the center of the card, so I'll need 2 circle dies, one slightly smaller than the other. I'm going to be using my Hero Arts Infinity Circle die set. Having a nesting die set like this can be invaluable for situations like this. There are many companies that make nesting dies. I happen to have the one from Hero Arts. Now I'll center the frame, making sure it looks even. Then take the smaller die and line it up to cut out the background. My plan is to layer the 2 circles to create a focal point in the center of the card. Now you know I love dimension, so I cut 4 additional green circles to eventually layer behind the smaller circle. You don't have to do this, but it does give a beautiful look to the finished card. I took one of the circles and taped it in the place where I cut out the small die from the background, and I taped it down. Then I cut another piece of green cardstock to the same size as my original panel and glued it onto the back for some stability. Now we can assemble the frame. I'll glue all my small circles together. This will really help to give a lot of stability and dimension to this small frame because I really want it to pop. After I've glued them all together, I'll center the red circle on the card and then place my green stack in the middle, lining up the images. I want all my images to match the original background. This will give me the gorgeous framed focal point for the card, and it will draw the eye and add a lot of interest. Using one of the foiled greetings I created earlier, I placed it at the bottom of the frame and then used the leaves that I had stamped and die cut, arranging them around the greeting. You could use more leaves or no leaves at all, but I wanted to make the greeting stand out. I thought the card could use a little bit of bling, so I used Spellbinder's Scarlet Flat Sequins as holly berries and placed them over the red stamped berries. It was the perfect finishing touch without being overwhelming. I layered the entire panel onto a top-folding A2 card base cut from Gina K Designs Red Hot cardstock. I love how this card turned out. The pearl shimmer of the background combined with the stamping really makes the whole card pop. It's definitely meant for someone special. Let's take this masking resist technique and switch it up a bit. This time we'll create a background using masked images and ink blending. For this card, I'm using the Altenew Layered Snowflakes 2 die set. There are 5 separate snowflake dies, which you can use stacked together to create intricate snowflakes, or you can use them individually, as I'm going to do here. I'll cut a lot of these snowflakes again using the Altenew masking paper. Then, using a panel of white cardstock cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, I'll begin arranging my snowflakes. Arrange them however you'd like. I usually start in one corner and work out from there. Now for some ink blending. I'm going to use Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks. I'll be using Stormy Sky, Tumbled Glass, and Chipped Sapphire. I wanted to create a snowy sky feel, and these blues give me that it's snowing outside gray feel. I'll begin applying my ink, starting with the lightest color. This does not have to be perfect. I'm going to mix the Tumbled Glass and Stormy Sky together to achieve a mottled background. Since I'm using the 2 colors back and forth, I'm using 2 different brushes to limit the possibility of color contamination on the ink pads. I really love how this Distress Oxide ink blends. It's very forgiving. To finish, I'm going to take Chipped Sapphire and blend it all around the edges, giving the whole panel a vignette look. Now I'll step up the background and give it even more interest by doing some stamping. I'm going to be using this Dainty Swiss dot stamp from Altenew. I've used it in many other videos. It's one of my favorites. It adds just the right amount of texture to a background. For this card, I stamped it using the Hero Arts white pigment ink. I love how it turned out, but it was still missing something. So I decided to use some Hero Arts Sparkle Embossing Powder. Make sure you allow the background to dry totally, otherwise the whole background would be one big sparkle, and that's not what you want. That sparkle embossing powder did it. I love the result. After melting the powder with my heat tool, I can remove the masking paper to reveal the beautiful white snowflakes. The blue is the perfect complement to this snowy scene. To finish my card, I stamped From Our Home to Yours from the Poinsettia and Berries stamp set on a strip of white cardstock and matted it with silver. As I was about to put things together, my eye fell on an embossing folder sitting on my desk. It was the Altenew Happy Holidays embossing folder, and I thought, why not? I love how it turned out. Then I placed my foiled sentiment and added a few sparkly sequins for a finishing touch. I also matted the panel with Spellbinder's Cosmic Blue cardstock and adhered it to a landscape top folding white A2 card base. For my last card design, let's take the idea of masking in a different direction and use it to create a fun grid design on which we will do some ink blending and stamping. Gina K Designs has fabulous masking paper. It's my absolute favorite. It has a coating on it that allows you to stamp it over and over again without ink bleeding through. She also has a new product, a set of masking strips. These masking strips are pre-cut to 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch widths. They are even color-coded in the package for convenience. Now you can certainly cut your own strips, and if I didn't have this product on hand, that's exactly what I would have done. But I have it, and I wanted to try it, so here goes. Cut a panel of good white cardstock to 4 5 1/4 inches. Using a ruler, measure down 1/2 inch from the top and make a small mark. Then from there, measure down 2 inches and make another small mark. Move down 1/8 of an inch and make your third mark, then go down 2 more inches and make your final mark. Repeat this process on the other side. Now take a 1/8 inch strip of masking paper and place it along the top of the card, aligning it with the top marks. Take another 1/8 inch strip and place it in the center of the card, right where you've created your marks. Then take a 1/2 inch strip and place it along the top of the card and along the bottom of the edges, matching up your marks. Now take your ruler and measure in 1 3/16 inches from one side and then 1 3/16 inches from the other side. Do this at the top and the bottom of the card. Then take another 1/8 inch strip of masking paper and place it along the lines on the left, and then another strip and place it along the lines at the right. And there, you've created your grid. To create my panel, I'm going to apply different shades of pink and green to each rectangle of the grid. I'll be using Tim Holtz Distress ink. I've got my Waffle flower silicone mat for the ink blending. You'll also want to cut 3 thicker strips of Gina K Masking Magic to mask the other areas as we ink blend. I'm starting with Kitsch Flamingo and applying the ink from the bottom corner and working up. You could cover the entire area, but I wanted to give it a little graduated color. Don't you wish that ink blending went as fast as it looks in videos? When you're done, remove the masking paper along the side and move it to the other side of the rectangle. Place another strip of masking paper over the area you just finished. Now be careful when changing colors. You'll see that I turn one of the strips around. That's because I don't want to take any of the pink color from the strip I just ink blended over into the rectangle where I'm going to apply the green. I'll apply Twisted Citron to this panel, starting at the bottom and working my way up. The ink blending doesn't have to be perfect for this. We're going to stamp over each area, so feel free to be human. I used picked raspberry for the third area, making sure to turn the masking paper around first. For the bottom left, I used mowed lawn, then decided to add a touch of Twisted Citron. And for the last green panel, I used Rustic Wilderness. Notice how well the masking paper is holding up under all of this ink blending. It's really a great product, and I use it anytime I'm going to stamp or use ink on a mask. I'll finish up my panel with some spun sugar in the middle. Now it's time to add our stamped images. Again, I'm going to use the leaves from the Altenew Poinsettia and Berry set. Since I want each image to be solid black, I'm going to use my Misty stamping tool so I can stamp each image multiple times. You can use any image you want for this as long as it's a solid stamp. There are some really great solid stamps out there, and I'll bet you have something in your stash that you could use. I'll also be using Altenew Permanent Black ink for this. It dries quickly without me having to heat set it. Making sure to mask off the other areas first, I'll place my stamp as desired and stamp it several times. I'm also going to add the berries, so I'll wipe off my stamp, and since I'll be using it again, I'll clean it thoroughly before putting it away. I'll continue masking and stamping until all the rectangles have been stamped. Then I can carefully remove all the masking paper. This is the other quality I love about Gina K Masking Magic. I find that it will come off the cardstock every time without ripping the layer underneath. I've had that happen with some other masking papers. And now we have a beautiful stamped and inked background. To finish my card, I matted the panel onto dark pink cardstock and layered it onto a white top folding A2 card base. I added some Studio Katia pink pearls over the berry stamps and then placed my foiled greeting in the middle of the card. The result is a gorgeous, colorful card that will have your recipient wondering how you managed to make it. I hope you've enjoyed our time together today. If you have, please give me a thumbs up just under the video. I've linked all the products used in the description below if you're interested, as well as putting a link to my blog. If you would like to watch more of my videos, I'd love for you to subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me today at Diva Lady Designs.